I'm Lisa, and I'm the mom half of this duo.
And I'm Shada. I'm Lisa's daughter. And welcome to Two Peas in a Plot, our little corner of the internet where we talk all things books.
We read across genres and love everything from underrated gems to longtime favorites.
And just a quick heads up while we try to avoid spoilers, we do talk about what we liked or didn't. So there might be a few light spoilers along the way just to give you some context.
So if you love stories and want to grow your TBR, hit that subscribe button and join the plot. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back. To start off, I'm old school and I just got my new planner for the year and I was decorating it as I like to do. That's why I like a printed planner, although I think eventually I'll probably do an electronic one. I know Shada is trying to get me to do something like that, which maybe someday I will, but I like that. I don't know if you call it tactile. I like to write and cover it with stickers and whatnot. But I found some funny stickers that I wanted to read out to you. So this is a picture of books and coffee, and it says, "Yes, I really do need these books and coffee." I don't know. I thought it was funny. So I'll get better as I go along. And then the other sticker is bookmarks are for quitters, which I didn't think of that. I thought that was cute. And this one was one of my favorites. If you can't remember my name, just say books and I'll turn around.
That's so
That
cute.
one's
I
my
love that.
favorite. Yeah. And then this is kind of common sense. Don't judge a book by its movie.
Oh, yes, that's a
Yeah.
very good.
And this is dealing with probably my personality and maybe Shada's. I'm not sure. Shada talks much better than me though. Introverted but willing to discuss books.
Oh, yes. But it has, yeah,
I mean, I can discuss other things, but
yeah.
it's got to be a favorite subject of mine to maybe not produce my introverted personality so much. Anyway, I just had to bring those up. I thought they were cute. Now I can decorate my planner after I've talked about them. So today's book is Dear Mrs. Bird by A.J. Pearce, and it was published in 2018. I believe it's a series of 4 books. I'm going to read the back of the book for the description of the book because it puts everything together better than I can. The Minneapolis Star Tribune sums it up as a delightful read, funny and poignant about the strength of women and the importance of friendship. So the back of the book continues and reads, a young woman in 1940s London who longs to be a war correspondent inadvertently becomes secret advice columnist. Emmeline Lake and her best friend Bunty are doing their bit for the war effort and trying to stay cheerful despite the German planes making their nightly raids. Emmy dreams of becoming a lady war correspondent, and when she spots a job advertisement, she seizes her chance. But after a rather unfortunate misunderstanding, she finds herself typing letters for the formidable advice columnist Henrietta Bird. Mrs. Bird is very clear. Letters containing any unpleasantness must go straight into the bin. But as Emmy reads the desperate pleas, she begins to write back to the women who have poured out their troubles. Dear Mrs. Bird is an irresistible love letter to the enduring power of friendship, the kindness of strangers, and the courage of ordinary people in extraordinary times. Anyway, it just sounds so cute. And the little blurb still on the back of the book about A.J. Pearce, the author, she grew up in Hampshire, England. She studied at the University of Sussex and Northwestern University. A chance discovery of a 1939 women's magazine became the inspiration for her series, The Emmy Lake Chronicles, which also includes Yours Cheerfully and Mrs. Porter Calling.
Well, I like that you said advertisement instead of advertisement. It's very Canadian and very British, I think, too. I
To
know
s-
it's Canadian. Advertisement.
Advertisement. It didn't
Yes.
sound right. I was thinking I'd be tongue-tied if I said advertisement. It's almost easier to say advertisement to
Yeah.
me. Well, that's some of my ancestry. I'm English. I'm
Well, yeah.
Scotch.
Scotch.
Scotch. I'm Scotch. I'm Scott.
Scots.
Scottish.
Scots.
Scots.
Irish.
I'm Scots. I always say Scotch.
That's
Northern.
different.
Anyway, it's cute. The author gave me a view of that time period, and I felt like I knew Emmeline, she also goes by Emmy, very well, and cannot wait to return to her next book and see what Emmeline and her friend Bunty, which I love the name Bunty, have in store for the reader. I will say that there were some sad times, and I don't like to cry, but you can get over it. It is a little heartbreaking, but I was able to do it with the help of the author going on. And in my book chat club, we just talk about books that we're reading that month. One of the ladies had read the series and says it gets happier with each book. So I'm looking forward to completing the series. But all in all, a good book. And it was, we were talking earlier before we started recording that I remember reading the newspaper. I would read this comic strips in the morning before I'd go to school when I was in elementary school and middle school. And I remember the advice columnists. I didn't really read those, but I remember, I think it was Anne Landry, and I think there's a Dear Abby. So I don't know if they're still going on now. I think they are, but I don't know that I'd ever write into an advice columnist. Would you, Shada?
Yeah, I don't know. Um, I think I'll read some advice columnist blogs now because now I feel like they're mo
Mm-hmm.
mostly blogs, but I feel like the focus has shifted from like maybe I don't know what the content of Dear Abby was in like the 60s, 70s, 80s, etc. But I feel like it's shifted to more of workplace questions or like, well, I guess there are also like interpersonal things. I think a lot of people post on Reddit for advice.
Mm,
And that's like the Wild West. If you're going to get unfiltered opinions. So no, I don't think I'm really private, so I don't think I
yeah.
would,
Oh,
but I'm very interested in reading them
yeah.
in the modern incarnation of like blogs and Reddit posts. There's a whole Reddit post or a subreddit, and it's called I assume we're not swearing on our podcast, but am I the a-hole? Except it's
Right.
spelled out. And people will write out in about their situation. They'll make a post like, this is happening, and this is what I said, and this is what this person said, and this is the dynamic. So, am I the a-hole for doing this particular thing? And then people will weigh in and tell them, like, no, you're not, or absolutely you are. You should have done this. And that's very interesting to me.
That is interesting. It's nice to get a different perspective. I think like you, I am more private. I think I would ask Chat GPT before I went public because it's just
Yeah.
me and Chat GPT talking.
Yeah. And it's kind
Although,
of like a black box. I know there are security concerns around, or maybe not
mm,
security concerns, but there are definitely ethical concerns around Chat GPT, but I still feel like it's a good like it's kind of like in high school and college, that you're always stressed like don't use Wikipedia as your source because it could be wrong. So I feel like but it's a good starting place.
mhm,
So I feel like ChatGPT is like I know there have been some like oh don't this is different, but like people using it for therapy as a therapist and it can't
right.
really replace a person, but I still think it's a good place to start and like get like feel out like so I think that's great.
Yeah,
And then it
it's
can have like a conversation with you.
I think if you're lonely and you just, like you said, you're just starting out, you can just put a few questions out there and keep asking different ones, how you tell me to how to use it. But for those times that you're lonely and maybe it's too late to call someone or talk to someone or you want an immediate answer. As long as it's not like obviously a dire need that you needed to know something and it's a health issue. And I think these were more like the woman, dear Mrs. Bird never wanted to deal with any marriage problems. She just wanted easy peasy stuff. And she was real mean about her answers. So Emmy comes along and she feels for all these people. She's very empathetic. But she does a lot of things that in today's world in the workforce, oh, she'd be fired in a heartbeat. But that comes towards the end and you find out what happens and it's a really good read. I really enjoyed it. This was on my TBR, so I'm glad I finally took the plunge and now took it off. That's really my short review of the book. I really can't wait to finish the series. Was happening in the time period. They're having a lot of nightly raids. And after she works her job, she goes and works in the fire brigade, taking phone calls of where the fires are and how to get the firemen to the right location. And sometimes there's just so much devastation, they can't even tell the firemen where the fires are because the street names are
Oh,
gone or
yeah.
the buildings are gone. And it's just so that part's kind of sad. But I love that time period. It's kind of, there's an innocence there too that I love how they're friends with one another and how they work in the workplace. So I love that part of it.
Yeah, I like period. I was gonna say period pieces, but that feels more like a show.
Yeah. Like historical, you call it a
Yeah, I guess historical.
I guess one of the questions was, how can you imagine what it was like for women trying to build careers in 1940s? But sometimes I think that's still going on today. Not like it was back then, but
Yeah, I still think there's a lot of inequity in
yeah.
pay
Hmm.
in a lot of different fields. But I also feel like, women experience this boom of opportunity when the men went off to war
Yeah.
and then they all came back and then you had this crackdown on like, no, we're gonna be this very traditional nuclear family. The woman's gonna stay in the home. And I know there were a lot of exceptions to that, but um, but I think women saw a lot of their opportunities yanked away when the war ended. Because
Yeah.
when you think of like Rockwell paintings, and I know this is England and Norman Rockwell is very much like Americana, but
Hmm.
you have this resurgence of very traditional, like the man is the provider, the woman is the homemaker. So I think it would have been harder then to experience this, like, oh, I can do all these things. And then you start going into the 1950s and it's like, well, and I'm sure there were plenty of men who were very supportive of their wives, but I also feel like there was kind of a shift in employers not wanting to hire women because it wasn't wartime anymore. So I think it was just like, yeah, I think you're right. It's still happening today, but I could
Yeah.
see being really, really disheartened. And listeners, I apologize for my voice. I am just perpetually congested. I've got a little bit of something in my chest, so if I sound a little if I sound a little emotional, I'm not. It's just this it's just this
You're fighting off
coughing.
some coughs,
Yeah.
coughing. Yeah, I think there's a book I haven't read yet. It's on my TBR that deals with women losing their jobs because the men come back and they're pretty much temporary hires and they're there just to fill in for the men. And when the men come back from war, they get their jobs back, which I get. But if the women were doing a good job, you think they'd try to find a place for them. I don't know. I'm not from that time period, but it makes sense now. Maybe it didn't make sense back then to do that.
I don't know. I get that they were temporary workers, but you've got a whole new workforce. And I get that that's not fair too. Like men go off to war, and now women too.
Hmm.
But also, like if you're in the army or if you're in a military branch, you could stay in. I don't know. I maybe maybe the structure of the military was different back then too, and it's like
Yeah.
it's interesting to think about though.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask two more questions. So, what does the phrase "Dear Mrs. Bird" suggest to you, even though I've already kind of told you? Advice, letters, secrets, or something else? If you
Okay.
saw, if you saw the book.
Kind of all those things. Like
Yeah.
the core is you're asking for advice, but you're sending in a letter and there are secrets.
Yeah. There's a stamp on the cover of the letter. There's a
The
stamp
cover of
on the
the
cover
letter.
of the book. I can't talk today. And then if you saw this book on a shelf, what genre would you guess it belongs to?
Ooh, you know what? I was listening to an author. I was listening to it like a podcast, but it was a vlog, and she was talking about the market labels that the publishing industry puts on fiction about women, like women's fiction. So I would probably call this women's
Oh,
fiction
oh,
in terms of publishing, like
yeah,
the publishing industry. But she brought up a very good point that when like if it's a story about a woman, moving through life and figuring things out and building an identity, it's women's fiction. If it's a male character, it's just fiction.
fiction. How
Yeah.
weird.
So I would say industry wise, this is women's fiction.
Yeah, I
But I
didn't.
don't know. I think by the cover, I think it would be more popular fiction, like not it wouldn't maybe kind of toes the line of literary fiction, but this seems more popular fiction in the women's fiction vein.
Mhm. Would you call it historical fiction or no?
Yeah, I think also historical fiction.
Yeah, I didn't really look that up. I I'm not real into genres except just to find out what the book is about, but I just usually read the description and either I like it for what it describes, because there's a bunch of nonfictions that I really want to pick up,
Oh
but
yeah.
I'm afraid if I once I purchase them, then I don't want to read them. I'm better on a wish list and then I purchase it when I'm ready to read it, if that makes sense. I don't know why I'm
Well,
like that.
I'm kind of weird. Even when I have been wanting a book for a long time, I have to be in the exact right mood to start something. Yeah, maybe when I bought it, I was in that mood, but
Yeah.
then like I don't go to the store anymore. I just order things
Yeah.
when it arrives, even if it's like same day shipping. I'm like, well, maybe I'll start this other one that's been sitting on my shelf for a while.
I will usually start it when I get it, but because I'm in a couple of book clubs, I don't really have the choice sometimes. Because next I'll have to start reading a book club pick. But I think I'm going to like it. So we'll see. Well, that's the short review of Dear Mrs. Bird by A.J. Pearce. I really enjoyed it and can't wait to read the next in the series. And as always, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Thanks for being here and talking books with us.
And if you love stories and want to grow your TBR, hit that subscribe button and join the plot with us. And we'll see you in the next chapter. Bye, y'all.
Bye bye.